Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about what units you might want to be sparking for the end of Season 1. So just to double check here, this is the latest roadmap. And in this roadmap, we are not getting any more new units. Although there was a delay for the Hell's Chicken event, I don't think there will be any more new extractions until Season 2, which will happen next month. So we will have a little bit of a chill month for the month of May. We only get a roll call event, which is a daily login event, and then we will have some Dante's notes, which is more lore related stuff. It's not really relevant for your gameplay purposes. So what I want to talk about is how the season change will work, and just remind everyone how it works again. For IDs, event IDs and Ego will be the only ones that are not pullable in Season 2. They will come back in Season 3. As simple as that. The extraction IDs and Egos and event IDs and Egos will be available in Season 2. This is the Season 2 event IDs and Egos, so don't mistake this and this for the same thing. And also, the Season 1s and regulars will still be available for pulling. The only one that will not be available is the event ID and Ego, which is mainly the Chef event. Okay, next we got the what is dispensable, what is sparkable, right? Okay. What it becomes sparkable is the Battle Pass and the Season 2 stuff, as well as regular extraction IDs and Egos. So what does not become sparkable are Season 1 specifically, extraction IDs and Egos, and Season 1 event IDs and Egos, which for this one is the Lifetime Stew and the Chef. And for this one, it is the characters that are related to the story. So, now that I've established that, here I will show you what are the IDs that are going to leave and will not be pullable or sparkable for Season 2, what will be pullable but not sparkable for Season 1, and what will be pullable and sparkable for Season 2. Sorry, this one is Season 2 as well, yeah. Okay, so out of all of these, obviously Chef Ryoshu is top priority here because if she's very strong, her skill tree scales off missing HP, and when the bosses have as much HP as they have in Railway 1, you probably do want to bring a Ryoshu along. In addition, her skill 2s and skill 1 is fantastic. It's practically a shank, it's just missing one extra coin, and the skill 1 is pretty decent. It's a 2-coiner, does pretty decent damage. She has some healing sources as well, so overall, very strong unit. Definitely, I recommend you get her. Gregor will be a free acquire, so definitely finish up the event and at least get your Gregor, so that you don't have to worry about not having him for Season 2 if there is a reason for using him. And then here we have the pullable units, not sparkable. So these pullable units, it's up to you whether you put a very high priority on them. You could leave them in the pool so that you can pull random units in Season 2 and you can have a chance to get these units. So it's really up to you if you want to pull them. The two that I would highly recommend, actually I'll say 3, is Ninclair, Honglu, and Faust. The Ninclair and Faust, these two, have very strong synergy with each other, as I explained in my previous video. Whistles helps to make Ninclair not corrode, so it's quite important to have this, because if you give Ninclair a lot of actions, he will corrode. And yeah, he's a very, very strong unit. He has a Cloud Cutter on his skill 2 and a Rip Space on his skill 3, essentially. The damage output is insane. It's like what, 30, 30, 30 on the third skill, and 16, 16, 16, 16, which is about 64, a little bit more than Cloud Cutter, and applies a lot of burn as well. Very, very strong unit. Paired with her, she very, very strong as well, because she buffs blunt damage as well as manage his sanity. So I would recommend that these two should be sparked together. Hong Lu gets a special mention because his passive is amazing. His passive makes it so that your unit will get more hits damage, and more hits damage is something that quite a lot of units will enjoy, exception being Ninclair. And Ting Tang himself is a very good farmer, as we've all seen in the Bongi event. He can mutilate a chicken and just kill him and then kill another chicken as well. Very, very good for farming in general, so I really like him. The rest of the units is really up to you whether you want to go and spark them or you can just wait for them. Sinclair here, the Jefe version, is also pretty good for the passive. The passive is if you have more SP than the enemy, you deal more damage. So it's a very strong passive. So it's up to you whether you want to get him now or you can just let him spook you because it's a 0-0, right? All these 0-0s have the same logic because they are 0-0s. There is a pretty okay chance to get them from pulls, so you may not need to spark them. But some of these units here, these 3 stars here, may not be something that you want to spark for. So G Gregor may as well be one of the stronger versions of Gregor, but the thing is that in the strat for Railway, he's probably just going to be a good unit to have along, but not an essential unit to have along. If you're min-maxing, you probably want more damage, and he does have some damage, but he doesn't have some crazy damage. Some of these units that we have, like Dawn, Rabbit Heathcliff, Ninclair, have some ridiculous highs, and when you're doing Railway for minimum turns, you're going to reroll until you get those highs. If you're an average player, then Gregor would be a very comfortable pick for you, but it's not as high as these units that I just mentioned, because like Quick Suppression is ridiculous, Rip Space is ridiculous, Leap is a very strong move as well, Dawn has like 2 strong moves, as well as Telepole, pumping her up so that she can do crazy shit. And then we got Ninclair who can do crazy shit as long as he has low sanity. So there's a lot of highs here that I don't think Gregor can actually beat these highs. But he is still one of the stronger Gregors. His passive is very good. I would say he is a very comfortable unit for any farmer who just wants to press win rate and just kind of let it happen. He is very tanky because of his healing. He is very strong because of his damage. So overall, quite a good unit to try and get. Grosshammer currently does not have a place in the NCOP gang because of his lower damage output. He has utility, he has tankiness. It's just that we don't really need those right now, so maybe not a high priority, but at the same time, he is a 3-star, and we do not have another Meursault in this pullable but not sparkable tier. The only one is this Meursault, so if you do have some Meursault shards left over, you may want to just pick him up, because your shards will be cut in half when the season changes. And then we got Lccb Faust and Rodion. All these are all up to you because they are 0-0s. I would put a special mention for Endon because I really like her. And she's also a 2-star, so it's pretty easy, I would say, to get her compared to Ninclair from the banner. So it's up to you once again. I won't talk about the 0-0s too much because when you are thinking about sparking, you're probably thinking about what are the 0-0-0s that I should be keeping rather than what are the 0-0s I should be keeping. None of these are particularly interesting. I would say Ishmael is probably one of the most min-maxy ones. It's because Ishmael has a skill tree that applies 5 fragility, and the problem with her is that she has 2 to 6 speed. So if you really want to min-max, you need Ishmael to go first, apply the 6 fragility, and then you want your friends to go last so that they can benefit from the fragility. So this requires a lot of min-maxing, and I have a special mention for her because there are some people who get really minimum turns by grinding this 5 fragility, just by rerolling until they get something. But the average player probably wouldn't care too much about this rerolling, so it's up to you once again. And Rodion, special mention because I also like her for the K-Cop clear. She helped me fund What is Cast Ego. She did pretty good blunt damage on stages where the enemies were weak to blunt. So special mention, but her output in terms of damage is kind of alright. It's pretty high when you get the right elements, and pretty mediocre if you don't. It's not like some of these characters with super high highs right now, which is unfortunate, but she is very strong with the NCOP gang as well, because she can benefit from fanaticism, gives her more damage, she has high growth rates, decent clash. And Dawn is one of my favorites. I think that she has the tremor, she has the nails. So overall, a very good support character for Ninclair, especially since that this NCorp Dawn has lifetime steal as well, can synergize pretty well with Sinclair. One issue is that W Dawn does exist, so if you have W Dawn, you might not even consider running NCorp Dawn, because with W Dawn you can get some really high highs in Railway, and maybe for farming you could consider someone else, because W Dawn is not particularly amazing for auto farming because you will be rip spacing occasionally and you won't have the charge, so it might be a bit off. But actually right now in our current content this really doesn't matter because we usually just auto battle and we win anyway, right? So in terms of Railway, which is our endgame, I would say W Dawn would probably be taken over N Dawn if you are trying to min-max certain stages. Yep. Besides that, nothing much else to talk about for the IDs. I'll just keep it short. If you guys need any more extra explanation or you want to explain which units should be a higher priority, then feel free to. I just think that the 3 stars here should be more higher priority because they are a bit harder to pull for rather than the 2 stars, which are a bit easier to pull for. Yep, okay. Anyway, now we move on to the Egos. So, the top priority ones to get are Lifetime Stew Dawn and Lifetime Stew Sinclair. Good news, you get one for free, so you only need to worry about whether you want Lifetime Stew Sinclair. And the decision for Lifetime Stew Sinclair is whether you are going to try to min-max, I would say. The thing is, we do not know what future content holds for us. We do not know if AoE blunt damage is good or AoE healing is good. So let me... Okay, so here is Lifetime Stew. Lifetime Stew's passive obviously synergizes with Ninclair. Tail coins inflict 1 burn if hitting an enemy. So that is really good for Ninclair as he applies quite a bit of burn. Then here we see the 2 versions of the Lifetime Stew, and we must consider the corrosion version. The reason being is that Ninclair is a crazy unit when he's at low sanity, and just a little bit off and he will get corroded. So there are times where you will purposely corrode to get maximum value out of the corrosion, and sometimes you won't because you don't want to kill your allies. So it really depends on how you pilot Ninclair in the future. So cost-wise, 3 Wrath, 2 Lust, 1 Gluttony, pretty good. It's a 6 cost for AoE. The non-corroded version is a heal. So targets units with the least HP, and if the target is an ally, this deals 0 damage. And if you heal them as well, and if it's an ally, you give them 2 haste and 1 ego resource amp. So in the future, it's possible that we would use this part just for farming the resources. So there is a synergy here with Ninclair. And then here's the corroded version. It does 24 and 18 here, so 24 is a pretty significant power spike. We can kind of ignore this because we are aiming to not roll this, because with very low sanity, we're aiming for maybe minus 40 sanity, which would give us maybe like an 85% chance to not roll heads, I think. And I'm not sure the math on this one, but it's basically a really small chance of rolling the heads. So it might happen and it might not happen. So if it rolls a 12, that kind of sucks. But if it rolls 24, then hey, you're pretty good to go. It's at 24 on an AoE, so it's really strong. Yeah. Same for here also. Base power 18. Really strong if it's an AoE, and they're weak to blunt, they're weak to lust. And over here, we got Lifetime Stew AoE, indiscriminate. So that is the big problem here for these two, is that they're indiscriminate. So I do not know if this is actually enough value, the first part, because you are indiscriminately targeting 3 people with the lowest HP, which, unless you're fighting non-mobs, will probably be your allies. Yeah, because if you fight a boss, the boss is very thick, so he usually has higher HP than your allies. So, and this is AoE, so you know, if you fight a boss, then the first part will be more important, right? Because it will target least HP. Your allies are less HP than the boss because he's very thick, and so the healing effect will trigger more. And then here, it's more significant if you are fighting waves, because this one's more about damaging. You're targeting the units with the least HP. So if it's mobbing, you actually have a pretty good chance of targeting the enemies instead. Although if there are particularly thick enemies, then you will be targeted as well. And that is not uncommon. We can see like Sacristy stages are pretty tanky as well. The dogs are tanky. The K-Corporals are pretty tanky. So it's not uncommon to see that maybe we will be the ones getting targeted with this. So it's going to be quite tricky to find stages where this works out. But in exchange, on the stages that it does work out, it will do a lot of damage. 24 targets the units with least HP, and then you spend 3 random ego resources to boost damage by 20%, and you inflict 2 burn count. And if you are using Ninclair solo, for example, you will be activating this like 5 times. If you're using it in a low team or a suicidal team where you are aiming to just bring someone along to help tank for Ninclair while he charges up his low sanity, then you are also going to be quite happy, as he will just slam a bunch of enemies with a huge amount of blunt power. There's a lot of potential here, but I think it's generally agreed upon that Impending Day is also very strong. Impending Day is the second competitor to this slot, right? Because it is a theft slot as well. Impending Day has much more single target power. 28 here on the base and 28 on the corrosion. For the corrosion, you target randomly, If the target's HP is below 25%, you deal more. And if you fail kill, you get the bleed and you get attack power up. So it is very, very strong for killing bosses, because you will not usually kill the boss in a single turn. If you are doing a low team run or a solo Ninclair run, this will deal a bunch of damage. I posted the Chroma Clear and we abused the shit out of Impending Day to do this. We did give him a little bit of healing so that he can take this bleed. So the bleed here will be the main factor in whether you want to use this. Can Ninclair kill this boss in the time that this bleed will kill him? So usually you do need a little bit of healing to compensate for this bleed. The good news is that Ninclair has about 160 HP, so it's not super bad to only get like maybe 50 bleed, because you only lose 50 health out of 160. And if you have a little bit of sustain in the form of maybe Chef Gregor, Chef ryoshu, regular Gregor, G Gregor, then you're pretty much fine. You won't be dying. So this has explosive potential in bosses, while the other one is more for AoE spam. So I cannot say whether the other one will be more valuable than this one, because this one is very strong. You can see attack power up is just, it's disgusting. It's 3 attack power up next turn, and with more actions that do this move, this corrosion move, you will get even more attack power up next turn. So it's very, very strong. Imagine having a 15 attack up Ninclair with those coins. It sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. Yes. So in terms of whether the other one will be useful, leaves to be seen. We need to see what content will come out later that we might need this. So, knowing that they designed this in mind with Ninclair, I have a pretty high likelihood that P-Moon will probably cater content that could benefit this, right? They could create content that would make this synergy really strong, and that you will feel very happy that you have this rather than you not having it. So if we look at the psychology here, it's probably true that you want to keep at least this guy around for a bit. The bad news is that if you don't have Ninclair and you don't have the stew, then you need about 800 shards to go and spark them all. So what I'm going to say is, if you have Ninclair, you might consider this. And if you don't have Ninclair, go get Ninclair and then just abandon this. Unless you are willing to pop all of your nominal shard boxes for this one. This one is more like a just in case future content. It is not a, oh man, this is amazing. No, there is a substitute. Impending Day is a pretty damn good substitute. So not super high priority, but I would say keep, just so that you don't have a bit of FOMO when the new season hits and you realize that lifetime still helps you to minturn quite a few stages. Yeah. So that's my opinion of the limited one, which is but even if you miss it in season 2, he will come back in season 3. So yeah, we'll see. Alright, anyway, let's talk about the past egos. So if you don't have them yet, the free ones are extremely strong. Ebony Stem, Legend Domain, 4th Match Flame, ryoshu, and Impending Day are some of the strongest free egos in the Battle Pass. Rhymeshank is also pretty damn solid. I use Rhymeshank a lot because I stored up a lot of Gloom when I used W Dawn, because I was like leaping every single turn. So I do like Rhymeshank because of its AoE. Although, to be fair, I did bring Honglu just to use Land of Illusion as well. I was just dumping blunt damage AoE. So it was Legend Domain, Rhymeshank, and Land of Illusion, Honglu. Yeah, so my strat really benefited from this as well. So yeah, these I mean, there are other strong ones. I think Telepole is currently a bit weird because there is no support for it. It's like Lifetime Stew when it first came out. Oh, Ninclair wasn't out, so we all thought it was just eh. And then after that, Ninclair came out, and I was like, there's potential here. Yeah, so Telepole Heathcliff is probably a sleeper agent here. Alright, so in this case, right, so are there any of the Battle Pass paid versions that you would want to spark in Season 2? Well, that one, there's no rush, right? Because you can wait for Season 2, and then you see, oh, this ego is probably good for this content, then you can go and spark it, right? Or if you want to spark it now, because you do not want to lose your shards, then that is also a decent choice, right? Let's think about this. So Telepole Heathcliff is one of the paid battle passes. Fluid Sack Faust is one of the paid battle passes. 4th Match Flame Yisang is one of them. Fluid Sack Dawn is also one of them. And lastly, we got 4th Match Flame ryoshu. Sorry, not ryoshu, Rodion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. like this. Okay, so we'll just throw them all at the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So are any of these particularly amazing? Well, currently, not so much. But for K-Corp content, this Yisang was used. And I do believe some people actually corroded their Rodion, which was pretty damn strong. Because the K-Corpers were weak to Wrath as well as Slash. So it was really powerful to use these to AoE clear them down. Very, very strong. So it depends on the content, but having these two be AoE, this one's AoE on corrosion or overclock, and this one is AoE naturally. So these two are really strong when the enemy is weak to Wrath, weak to Slash. So AoEs are always good. Same logic for Fluid Sac. I believe same logic for Telepole as well. Telepole, I believe, is at AoE as well. I need to check this again. Because honestly, no one really uses Telepole except I believe one of my friends used Telepole just to clear out the bongies with a specific strat. Yep, it is an AoE. The problem is that it's also a pretty costly AoE, right? It's 3 plus 2 plus 3 here. I think Sheng is about the same cost, really. They have quite a bit of cost to them. But if the typings match, then it will be good, right? Because AoEs, you hit multiple targets, you hit the right elements, it's still fine. Because I gathered a shit ton of Gloom, I gathered a shit ton of Envy in my run. So I don't mind popping this Ego. So cost is I mean, the cost does have a factor to play, but at the same time, if you have accumulated so much resources, then the cost really doesn't matter to you if you have strategized for this. So AoEs here, I would say, are more higher priority. So Telepole, Fluid Sac, Fog Mesh Flame, these four are pretty damn solid. And then Dawn is okay currently. The problem with Dawn, right, is that it is not an AoE. It's Fluid Sac Dawn. It costs 4 plus 2 plus 1. That is about 7 energy sources. It is Burst Tremor, and it deals 25 SP damage, which is interesting because monsters don't have SP, right? Abnormalities do not have SP. So this is really whatever, but against a human, this is not bad. And also the damage output on a single target that is weak to these elements is also pretty damn solid, as long as the target is either staggered, low morale, and in panic. So it's actually very good for single target damage. The question is, right, whether there will be content that is weak to this in the future. So that one, we don't know. Rather than spend on this, why not use other blunts? We can use Body Sack for blunt. We can use Representation Emitter, Legend Domain. We have quite a lot of good blunt stuff already. Even Fluid Sac Faust is an AoE blunt. And we did use Fluid Sac Faust. I think some people did use to help clear out some of the blunt weak enemies as well, because it is a 5 target blunt. So far, when we encounter a blunt weak enemy, it is usually in groups. With the exception of Telepole, of course, because Telepole was weak to blunt, but is a big boss. So in that situation, maybe this would have been more value, because we would stagger the Telepole and then we could bonk it with it. So for a lot of damage. It's a tricky one for the Battle Pass. Honestly, it really depends. I haven't heard of any min-max strats that use these 5 here, but I have heard of a lot of min-max strats that use Ebony Stem and Legend Domain for this railway. Yeah, these two are just the kings of this railway, the king and queen of this railway. Legend Domain for every single blunt, and Ebony Stem to kill every single boss that is vulnerable to pierce, or at least normal weakness to pierce. Is very, very strong. And the Ada stage was cleared within, like, I think 2 turns with Ebony Stem overclocks. Some ridiculous damage by Ebony Stem. Yeah. So once again, AoEs are just showing themselves to be one of the strongest egos in the game, because of the specific contents that we need AoEs to help clear fast to limit our turns. So yeah, but egos wise, it's very hard to say what must be sparked and what doesn't need to be sparked. But the good news is that a lot of the free ones are very, very popularly used for the railway. So at least you won't have to worry about the sparking of these, because the free Battle Pass is very, very good. The paid Battle Pass, on the other hand, is more of a luxury. And I think that is a very good design by Project Moon. They made the Battle Pass a bit of a luxury. If you pay, you get some decent egos that are not super essential but are very helpful for specific things. And they give you a lot of generic good stuff here, which are also good for general stuff and good for specific stuff. I think it's a very good way that they designed their Battle Pass. As for the rest of the Egos, they will be available forever. You can spark them if you want to burn your shards now, so you don't suffer the half loss into threat. It's up to you, that one, so I'll leave it to you. But priority-wise here, I would say maybe just go for some luxury stuff here. Maybe Fluid Sac Faust, Fluid Sac Dawn, Yisang, and Rodion. Telepole Heathcliff would be a bit of a copium pick. Even though he's AoE Pierce with Envy, we currently haven't seen his negative coins, right? He could be a 0/0 negative coin character, and it might not be super good, for example. And then, Telepole Heathcliff is just not so good anymore. It's like the logic behind, W Faust is not very good for doing damage, but they gave her a pretty decent Faust Telepole. But at the same time, it also fights with Fluid Sac for the spot. So I'm not going to bring the Telepole. So that logic could affect Telepole Heathcliff. And maybe they give it to a weak 0/0 warp unit, and then you do not want to even have this ego because you're never going to use this ego. Yeah. So that's my understanding. I would say maybe don't get Telepole Heathcliff if you are starving for shards because of that possible FOMO that could happen. But sorry, not FOMO. The possible I guess this is more like fear of waste. Yeah, fear of waste. I don't want to waste my shards on this, and then turns out I will never need this ego. Maybe just hold on to that. If it's really necessary for the future, then you can just farm up in Season 2 and just spark this guy, right? Yeah. And even then, he's also like pullable. All these will be available in the Season 2 banner. You can always just pull them randomly. So there's really no big priority here. The only big priority here is actually Sinclair, because he will not be available in the next season. Okay, I think that is all I have to talk about for this. The Egos wise is pretty simple. It's really just, do you want Lifetime Stew Sinclair for a possible map where it will be very good? Most likely, because B Moon will make it, but it is not confirmed, so I will not say anything. It's just that I'm understanding this from the company standpoint. They would probably sell something to you and then make the problem that this thing would solve for you in the future. It's a very gacha thing to do. They will sell you the solution for the problem they're about to make. It's a very normal thing to do. And yeah, so Lifetime Stew, potential problem in the future that it can solve. And then for this one, the IDs, very simply, is just Chef ryoshu. And for every other unit, it will probably be Ting Tang, Ninclair, and Faust. That's it. If you want the summary, that's it. Yep. I have nothing else to say for this video. If you have any questions, or maybe you want to argue about one of these characters being a bit more important, let me know. I will edit this video, or I'll edit the comments below, and then you all can see it. Yeah, and that's it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Let me know your opinions. And yeah, that's it.